everyone, and welcome to yet another smashing episode of AIC Retro Toy Museum. Yes, it has been over a month since I uploaded my last video. I am wearing my earphones because my microphone seems to be not working properly, but hey, that shouldn't stop me from making my next video. So today's video is going to be about two carded figures or two mint on card figures that I'm going to talk about. These are not very difficult to find in the international sellers market, be it on Facebook or on the eBay marketplaces that exist. But nevertheless, the ones that I have are a little bit interesting and I'm going to talk about that. Before I start the video, if you do like my content and like what I am sharing on this channel, do hit the subscribe button and subscribe to this channel. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I have a page called AIC RTM, which abbreviates for AIC Retro Toy Museum. So without any further ado, let's get started with the video. So the first MOC that I have is Ripper. Now this is one MOC that is not so difficult to get if you want to source one today. Lots of them are available on websites like eBay. The only difference is the MOCs that are usually available online for sale are the Russian versions. So the rear of the card usually has Russian text, but in my case, what I have is the Indian version. Now Ripper was one of the first figures that Funskool had released in India way back in 1990, if I'm not wrong. And they went on to make this for over a decade. Now, a lot of these figures were eventually retired because Funskool kept on upgrading their lines with the newer molds they got from Hasbro. But this was one of those which continued. So, even though this was made in 2003, if you look at the rear of the card, it has one of the first waves of Funskool on its card back. So when this figure was sold in 2003, not many of these were actually available in the market, but Funskool didn't bother to change the rear of this card, probably trying to save some money. The other thing being, and what a lot of Indian collectors don't realize, is that in the G.I. Joe line, the Dreadnoughts was supposed to be a separate team of sorts. They were not technically a part of Cobra, although if you have watched the animated series or read the comics, they have collaborated multiple times to fight against G.I. Joe. But all said and done, they were an independent entity. So most cards will have Cobra the enemy written on it. This, however, has Dreadnoughts the enemy written on it. Having said that, the later versions of Dreadnoughts that came, for example, Zatan, who is the leader of the Dreadnoughts, I think Funskool later on in their cards made it easy, and even the Dreadnoughts were called Cobras. I think I'm right on this. If I'm wrong, please correct me in the comments, because I really don't remember what's written on my Zatan card. So that was one little trivia. If you'll see the vest of this guy, it's green in color. There is also a purple colored vest variant, not waist variant, which is considered to be highly valuable in the collector's market. I am not so big about collecting variants. I'm more concerned about the character. So I'm not really gonna spend big money just to get hold of the variant. In terms of the card art, in terms of the figure, the accessories, it is similar to what was offered by Hasbro. Funskool didn't meddle too much with this particular character like they did later on in the series when the vintage Funskool line was next to nothing in the United States market. One interesting thing that I want to highlight on this particular card, I don't know if it is visible on the camera. If you look at the file card for Ripper, and I was going through some of the other file cards that were released in this era of G.I. Joes in India, Funskool somehow simplified the file card of Ripper. So I think what Funskool always tried to do was, because India was not a primarily an English speaking country, they simplified the file card language so that it is understandable by most of the kids. And I'm gonna, sorry for the disturbance, I'm gonna read this out for you. It sounds very immature and childish, but it's worth a read. So this is how it goes. Ripper is just like a devil, mean and evil. He was expelled from school for bullying other children and snatching their chocolates. When he grew up, he became a robber. He was sent to jail but escaped from there. He is very greedy and hates most people. He loves motorcycles. Ripper works with sharp weapons and cutting tools. He can break open the biggest gates and crack safes with his power jaws. Now, I went through the international file card, and the content which is there in this Indian file card is very similar to the international file card. Like, they haven't made too many changes in the core message of the file card, but the language is simplified. It almost feels like an essay book that we kids used to have in school describing a particular character. So that's a little bit of trivia about this carded figure. Like I said, the Russian versions are quite easy to get. So if you are interested in getting one of these, do search on eBay or even on OLX or Facebook groups. You might find one of these cards. It's a very nice figure to have, in my opinion. The other carded figure that I have, this is something that's not easy to get in India for sure. Easy to get, relatively speaking, abroad, but I haven't seen many of these cards on sale, at least in India. So this is one of the army builders or the troop builders, whatever you want to call it. It is called the Crimson Guard Immortal. So these were a bunch of slightly elite soldiers that were often featured in whatever G.I. Joe material, be it the comics or the animated series that were there. This is the Funskool edition. This was also made in 2003, but if you'll see the card back, the figures that are there as a part of this list is completely different from what's there on Ripper's card. So I'm just going to show this to you for a couple of seconds, and you can figure out that the one on Ripper is a far more vintage and an authentic version of the card back. So on the other hand, if you look at Crimson Guard Immortal's file card, it is very much in sync with what is found on the international cards. I think it is almost a word-to-word copy. There is hardly any difference between what you find on the Hasbro equivalent or any other international equivalent. So again, back then it was costing 78 rupees, which for that time was about $1.50 or so. But now, as you know, the market has exploded, and so have the costs for these vintage figures. So Funskool being Funskool, the weapons and some of the other accessories have been made in brightly lit colors. For example, you can see yellow, and this has a mechanism that actually shoots. So these are not like passive weapons that are there. You can actually have some play value with it, and people love to buy these in hordes. In fact, the American collectors love them as well because they are much cheaper than the Hasbro equivalent. So if you really want to build a huge army of these CGIs, as they call them, the Crimson Guard Immortals, this is again one of the more sought after figures. Interestingly, I will not read the entire file card and bore you, but it says that the Immortals are lawyers or accountants who pump iron, wear body armor, and carry big guns. What they can't get by stomping and shooting, they'll get by suing and auditing. I think this is carried over from the international cards as well. So maybe, the people who wrote this file card, maybe it's Larry Hama or somebody from his team. They were trying to take a dig at their own staff members in their respective companies. So the CGIs are not just your regular soldiers. These guys are supposed to be a bit more intelligent than your average Cobra soldier or trooper. So these are the two figures that I wanted to talk about. I thought these were interesting, brought about a little bit of variety in terms of the kind of cards that Funskool was offering. Both are from 2003, and you can clearly see the differences. This the one in my left hand is a more authentic representation of the vintage card, whereas the one on this side was more of a Funskool redesign, where you can see the Funskool logo becoming bigger, the G.I. Joe logo becoming smaller. And these are good figures to have in your collection if you are into mint on cards. So it has been a long video, but I hope you have enjoyed the content today. And like I always say, that if you like the channel, do hit that like button and do subscribe. And if you have any doubt, or if I have If you have any questions to ask, please write them in the comments. I respond to each and every comment that comes to me as early as possible. So till then, goodbye and have a great day ahead. See you in the next video.